Welcome to a video segment of the Albuquerque Police Department's 2011 Annual Report.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Old Town Substation. My name is Chris Backus and I have the privilege of being the commander over the Albuquerque Family Advocacy Center, the Violent Crimes Section, and the Juvenile Section. I'm here today to talk to you about some of our highlights for 2011. One of the things that we are most proud of, and that you'll hear more about today, is our high homicide clearance rate of 88% for calendar year 2011. The Albuquerque Family Advocacy Center served over 2,000 victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. The services provided included counseling, help with obtaining restraining orders, and legal aid services. The Violent Crimes Section, which includes homicide and armed robbery, saw some of its highest clearance rates in years. The Juvenile Section, which includes the School Resource Officer Unit, the Child Exploitation Detail, and Crimes Against Children, continued to provide a high level of service to the community. This service included training in lockdowns for schools, as well as internet exploitation training to prevent young people from becoming victims on the internet. Finally, I help oversee the Crisis Intervention Team and the Crisis Outreach and Support Team. In calendar year 2011, at the direction of Mayor Berry and Chief Schultz, we held a summit on issues those living with mental illness would face. This summit was a success and was attended by numerous service providers, advocacy groups, and actually those living with mental illness themselves. And those are some of the highlights that we'll be sharing with you today.
Good afternoon. My name is Sergeant Glenn St. Ange. I'm with the Crisis Intervention Team. Today I'm going to talk to you about what the CIT unit has done over the past year and a half. So far, we've provided hundreds of hours of training to department personnel as well as outside agencies and including providers that want CIT training. We've also done a memorandum of understanding, which is to create a metropolitan CIT unit, which includes BCSO deputies, and we're currently working with them 2 days a week, and soon hopefully we'll be full-time with them. The CIT unit also went from 2 detectives to almost 10, including the Metro unit. This really increased our intervention and follow-up and has really proven to be an asset in reducing deadly force situations with mental health consumers, as well as doing proper follow-up and getting these people the services they need. Our COAST team was also expanded by 1 person, which has helped out immensely. We assigned one of our COAST personnel to the Albuquerque Heading Home project, which has tremendously helped the homeless community in our city. So far, we've housed 86 people into homes who are chronically homeless, and doing that, getting these people the services they need, as well as breaking that cycle of homelessness. And so far, it's proven to be extremely successful. Also, what I'd like to talk about is a lot of people don't know that we have a full-time psychiatrist assigned to our unit. This has proved instrumental in a lot of the cases that we've worked, because our department's very unique, where we have an aggressive CIT program where we have a clinical psychiatrist that comes out on calls with us. Very few agencies in the nation have what we have and the intervention that we do with the special needs community. We've also, COAST, going back to COAST, they have helped over almost 5,000 people in this fiscal year alone, which includes hundreds and hundreds of mental health consumers as well with services. The CIT unit is doing about 100 home visits a month, as well as taking about 60 referrals almost a week, with the great efforts and work that the field CIT is doing, which is allowing us to do that aggressive intervention and follow-up with our mental health consumers. A quick thing I'd like to talk about that's going to affect the department and actually the whole state is House Bill 93. House Bill 93 is state mandated now that all officers within the state receive some sort of crisis intervention training that's done on a biennium basis. Luckily, Albuquerque's CIT program covers about 98% of that bill. However, we have to start our biennium training, which starts next month, which is April of 2012, and it will continue till August. And that's going to include actual one-on-one scenarios where officers have to interact and try to de-escalate a situation, as well as classroom instruction. What we've also done over the past few months, starting from September, is we held a mental health summit with law enforcement, providers, hospitals, and also consumers themselves, is how can we better improve the system. The summit was an extreme success, and it gets everybody talking on the same page. The governor also had a mental health summit a little bit after we did, and again with the same goals of improving the systems within the state. Our goals for the CIT unit is, again, to do follow-ups and interventions and make things safer for the citizens of Albuquerque as well as officers. Also, what's important to note is various agencies within the state and also around the nation have contacted me and they want to know how our system works, how our department CIT program is set up, because they want to model their CIT programs after the Albuquerque CIT model. I think this speaks volumes to the hard work that the field CIT officers do, as well as my detectives, as well as the support the department has given to the CIT program, as well as the community as well. If you have any questions, please give me a call. We're here to help. As well as now my CIT detectives are on call 24/7. So if you guys need CIT assistance after hours or the field CIT needs help, please call us and we'll either respond or give you direction on where to go. I can be reached at 924-6000, which is the Albuquerque Family Advocacy Center, or again, you can try our on-call number.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Gary Reed with the Violent Crimes Division. I'm responsible for the Homicide Unit, the Armed Robbery Unit, the Sex Crimes Unit, the FAST Unit, and the 118th Street Cold Case Missing Persons Task Force. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview on highlights of each of these units. For 2011, the Homicide Unit investigated 35 homicides and solved 29 of those homicides with the help of other entities within the Albuquerque Police Department. That relates to an 82.8 clearance rate for 2011 homicides, which resides approximately 20 percentage points above the national average. In addition to that, the Homicide Unit was featured in Albuquerque Magazine for outstanding performance during 2011. In 2011, the Armed Robbery Unit updated its robbery awareness training, which they provide to businesses that feel they could become or have been targets of armed robberies. This training is also offered by the ARAPA organization and the Robbery Unit. The Robbery Unit also has a specific detective assigned to each area command, so the area commands have one point of contact to get a hold of the Robbery Unit for the concerns of their command. In 2011, the Robbery Unit went through some changes with the coding of armed robberies. There are now 5 separate 10 codes for the different types of armed robberies. And this helps with statistical analysis and the way we respond to robbery calls and differentiate between commercial robberies and individual robberies. For 2011, the Robbery Unit arrested 9 serial robbers. During 2011, the Sex Crime Unit investigated a violent criminal sexual penetration that occurred in the 1990s. Through their investigative techniques and DNA analysis, they were able to identify and submit a case to the District Attorney's Office 20 years later on the offender that committed the sexual assault in the 1990s. During 2011, the Family Abuse Stalking Team, FAST unit, reviewed over 3,000 domestic violence police reports. They handled over 400 cases and were involved in the arrest of over 150 domestic violence offenders. This unit focuses on high lethality domestic violence offenders to include stalking offenders and preventing domestic violence before it happens. In 2011, the 118th Street Task Force Cold Case Missing Persons Unit continues to investigate tips and leads in reference to the 118th Street investigation. Additionally, the unit handled over 800 runaways during 2011. There were two cold cases that come to mind that occurred, that were investigated during 2011, one of which involved a cold case homicide that occurred approximately 20 years ago. You may have recently seen the news story where detectives from the cold case unit coordinated with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and police agencies in Oakland, California to effect the arrest of Ronald Brewington, who murdered his wife 20 years ago and was living under different identities for all the time since that occurred. Another one was the couple that left Chandler, Arizona in their car and got turned around in the forest, and the male and female began walking. They were older people. Unfortunately, the female passed away, but through the help of our missing persons detectives in this unit, the male part of that was able to be located and survived the incident. Additionally, you may have seen several different shows on television that featured our cold case 118th Street Missing Persons Unit during 2011 in regards to high-profile cases that they've worked. This has been an overview of the highlights of 2011 for the Violent Crime section. I'm Lieutenant Gary Reed, and thank you for your time.
Hello. I'm Lieutenant Kevin Rowe of the Juvenile Violent Crime section. And I'm fortunate to work with this cadre of motivated professionals, and I'm equally honored to lead this section, which includes the Crimes Against Children Unit, the Child Exploitation Detail, the Sex Offender Registration Detail, and lastly, the School Resource Officers. 2011 was a busy year. And when I think about the Crimes Against Children unit, and I'll speak about them first, this particular unit, it remained undaunted with the various challenges that they faced. And as you can imagine, investigating the abuse of children can be quite stressful. In 2011, the Crimes Against Children unit investigated 1,041 cases. And I'm proud to report that they cleared over 1,000 cases, which I find to be quite significant. The Child Exploitation Detail, CED, investigates the exploitation of children, and that can come in various forms, either by online predators or even that of stranger abductions, to name a couple. During 2011, this particular unit experienced some movement in terms of retirements, specifically the sergeant and 2 experienced detectives. In April of 2011, Sergeant Jeff Peterson came on board to lead these units. And he's been exceptional in what he does. I'm very proud of that. The Child Exploitation Detail investigated over 160 cases. In 2011, this particular unit was very proactive, and they obtained specialized training that afforded them the opportunity to go online and establish undercover websites or chat rooms websites, which allowed them to communicate with online predators who were preying upon underage children. A very, very successful training, and it's proved to be very successful for APD. This unit also exists as the participants in issuing the first 2 Amber Alerts in APD history. And I'm proud to report that during both events, the 2 children were found safely. And a lot of thanks go out to not only the CED, SWORD, or juvenile violent crimes, but also to all the participants in APD and other assisting agencies, including state agencies. And I want to say that the proactive nature of CED has really proved to be beneficial. In speaking about SWORD, this particular unit focuses on monitoring sex offenders here in our fine city. The SWORD unit monitors approximately 80 sex offenders. And during this particular year, 2011, the SWORD unit conducted over 500 verifications, and they also participated in approximately 100 joint investigations between SWORD, APD, and state police, the Attorney General's office, and other organizations. And I'd like to say that the success is all due to this unit also being proactive, and I'm very proud of them. And speaking now about the school resource officers, is the last organization that I'm responsible for. The school resource officers have been very, very active in the schools, and we have been fortunate to forge such relationships with our partners, being the Albuquerque Public Schools, APS, and the APS Police Department. Through these relationships, we've been able to keep children safe. Now, the school resource officers are inside of the schools, and they're doing a fabulous job. And although we can't be everywhere at all times, I am very proud to know that these individuals are very, very dedicated, and they're motivated in the school systems, being role models for the young children, whether it be middle school or high school. And some of the responsibilities include, when we talk about the school resource officers in the high schools, this is where it's very, very important to maintain a relationship with young adults as they've gone through puberty and now they're trying to make decisions on their future. Having a school resource officer in the school that cares makes a big difference in terms of investigations. And these investigations can range from violence or even some abuses. And the responsibility of school resource officers is to keep children safe. Now, we move down into the middle school area, and this is a very key period in young children's lives too, where these officers are in the school as role models. We have school resource officers that are certified in great training, gang resistance education and training, where these individuals are teaching young children how to resist the temptations of joining gangs, and also educating them on the effects of gang membership. And I'm really proud of the fact that these individuals who have come back to give to this section of their time and efforts, and to make a difference in the young children's lives. And the school resource officers have been very, very active in providing lockdown training for the school systems, preparing the school administration as well as the students and how to respond if in fact there's an active shooter. So this training is very, very vital, and it's very important. Also, the school resource officers are the participants, well, they put on a summer camp for children every year, which has been very, very successful. And it's an 8-week program, and this program has been a very, very big plus in our community. These officers in the schools, with their tenure and experience, a lot of which have come back, have retired and come back to be a part of our organization, really provide a valuable service to us. So we're really proud of them. And that's just to note a few of the things that happened in 2011. But I'm very, very proud of all the units that I'm responsible for. And you know, the Juvenile Violent Crime Section is on the move. We have a motto, and our motto is keeping kids safe, no matter what it takes. I'm Lieutenant Kevin Rowe, and I want to thank you all.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Lawrence J. Martinez with the School Resource Unit. I'm one of 2 sergeants in the unit. Today we're at the West Side Range. It's spring break for Albuquerque Public Schools, so we take that opportunity at the School Resource Unit to do training. That's what we're doing today. Just wanted to go over some highlights over the 2011. For 2011, the School Resource Unit did accomplish several things over the last year. For one, most of the officers became GREAT certified. That's a program called stands for Gang Resistance Education and Training. So therefore, all the middle school SROs are certified in the GREAT and GREAT. Over 1,600 students graduated from the program last year. So therefore, you know, the officers did a good job with the GREAT program. Also, we have officers in most of the, well, not most, but as many middle schools and high schools as we can man. With the officers being in the schools, we are able to accomplish a lot of things in safety. For between the east side and the west side SROs, we took over 6,000 calls for service. We wrote a couple thousand reports. Just took several calls that weren't even documented that the officers deal with every day on a daily basis. The officers also participated and assisted with the Balloon Fiesta in October, which is an annual thing for the SROs. They do assist traffic with the Balloon Fiesta. Also with the NRA shoot that goes on in September, the SROs also assisted with that. The SROs also assisted with several dignitary functions that happen. We're called upon. The SROs are called upon to do several functions throughout the year, and they always come up, and we always get volunteers to do that. You know, one of the things that I'd like to bring up is back last February 2011 is when Albuquerque was hit with severe cold weather. The SROs were called upon to help with the field with calls for service, because we were getting several calls for service during that cold snap. Also, the SROs were put on standby to go up north to the Espanola area to assist with turning on natural gas for citizens of that area, and they were at standby and willing to go if they needed to. They didn't have to go, they had that covered, but they were on standby to do that. I also want to point out that the SRO unit is responsible for training lockdowns in APS schools, and several schools have been trained on the lockdown procedure and continue to be trained. The SRO unit also was responsible for doing presentations on business safety. After AMCOR, we were called upon to take that on. Sergeant Mike Archibek took on that mission and was able to train several businesses, over 200 businesses, on lockdown, workplace violence, and that continues to go on. And we continue to work with APS and APS schools in partnership in trying to make the schools a safer place. And that's an everyday mission, and every year, all year mission, and we continue to do that.
Good afternoon, I'm Sergeant Greg Weber. I am the supervisor of the Crimes Against Children unit, and we are a division of violent crimes and then the juvenile section. Crimes Against Children is made up of, right now, 9 detectives, and we work closely with several agencies within the community, and our mission is fairly straightforward. We work to protect the children of the Albuquerque community. We work with workers from CYFD, from nurses from Para Los Niños and SANE. We work with specialized doctors from the Child Abuse Response Team at UNMH and Presbyterian Hospital. And we also work with special forensic interviewers and child psychologists at the Children's Safe House. So the detectives do a lot of interaction with these agencies on a day-to-day basis in order to fully investigate cases and determine what's best in order to serve justice for our child victims. Last year, Crimes Against Children received over 10,000 referrals of child abuse from CYFD that needed to be reviewed and possibly assigned. Of those referrals, and also reports from the field officers, we investigated 1,041 child abuse cases. 400 and some of those, let me just double check, 422 of those cases were physical abuse cases, and the remaining ones were of a sexual nature. 463 of those cases were found chargeable and sent to the district attorney's office either for grand jury indictment or based on arrest warrants that the detectives wrote. In 2011, Crimes Against Children investigated 14 child deaths. Many of those were classified as either negligent or accidental. However, 3 of them were homicides, which we also call child abuse resulting in death. Of all 3 of those homicides, the detectives were able to obtain full confessions from the offenders, and those offenders are currently in prison. Other highlights: the unit is currently working to review the protocol for child abuse investigations, and we're working with all of the agencies I named before in order to see if there's things that we can do better, and also to try to make the public more aware of what it is we do and what we need from them.